Hello, and a very warm welcome to this webinar from DNVGL entitled How Use of Technology Can Dramatically Improve Your Safety Incident Performance. My name is Paul Stanfield. So this is a bit of a grand title, though I say so myself. We'll be exploring each element of this title in a short while, but there is one key word here that is worth emphasizing straight away, probably most important, the word your. This is about something that applies to you, to your business, to your performance, to getting your people safely home each night, to helping you to get to and stay at best practice, to save you money. Safety incident management has now become a strategic issue. In today's world, uncontrolled risk can have catastrophic consequences for a company. I am joined for this webinar by my colleague Olaf Larsetter, who has many years' experience and expertise in this whole domain of technology to assist in safety incident performance. Let's quickly pass over my photograph. This was taken when I was considerably younger. Olaf is on the left-hand side. This webinar should last about 35 to 40 minutes, at the end of which there will be a Q&A session of probably no more than 10 minutes. If anybody has any questions that do not get answered during the session, or if you want to discuss any aspect of the topic covered in the webinar, do please contact us. If I do not know the answer straight away, I'm sure I can find somebody who can help you wherever you are in the world. I hope that you can hear us okay, using either laptop speakers, headphones, or perhaps a conference star phone, and that there is little or no delay between the slide transitions and the voice. We will not have any live software application demonstrations, links to videos, or intensive animations. At the end of the session, I will act as moderator, and I do encourage you to send any questions to me using the chat box on the panel to post any questions. No one else can see these apart from you and me, and I will filter them and ask our expert to answer if I think that the question is relevant and useful for the whole audience. So, how can we deliver a webinar on this topic of safety incident management? What credentials do we have to pronounce on such a subject? Let me, very briefly, start with the company DNVGL. We are the result of a merger in 2013 which brought together two complementary businesses which both started about 150 years ago. Yes, I'll say that again, 150 years ago. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any of the original employees of the company presenting here today. You'll just have to put up with us. But suffice to say that DNVGL has been in the business of risk for 150 years. Today, we are more than 16,000 people, with more than 300 offices in 100 countries. We are where our customers are. And now, in the 21st century, we are seeing increased complexity and greater challenges. Climate change and extreme weather conditions, political, religious and other conflicts, globalization of business and more complex value chains, changing political and public sentiment, and zero tolerance for failure. Instant media, increased external scrutiny, and increased calls for transparency, all within a context of a lack of global governance and international standards. This is the new risk reality. So whilst conditions change, our purpose does not: safeguarding life, property, and the environment. Before I hand over to Olaf, I want to just look again at the wording of our topic today: how use of technology can dramatically improve your safety incident performance. Now, everybody is doing something. Nobody is doing just nothing. They need to comply with regulations, with standards, with best practice, with customer demands, with internal procedures and processes. They need to get better, to improve their performance, to reduce the number of incidents, to save money, to save lives, to become more efficient. So, what is an incident and what is incident management? Well, according to Wikipedia, incident management is a term describing the activities of an organization to identify, analyze, and correct hazards to prevent a future reoccurrence. An incident is an event that could lead to loss of or disruption to an organization's operations, services, or functions. If not managed, an incident can escalate into an emergency, crisis, or a disaster. Incident management is therefore the process of limiting the potential disruption caused by such an event, followed by a return to business as usual. Without an effective incident management system, an incident can rapidly disrupt business operations, information security, IT systems, employees or customers, and other vital business functions. There is, or should be, a very logical sequence to a safety incident management process. Identification, to detect or report the safety incident. Registration, the incident is registered in a system. Categorization, the incident is categorized by priority. Prioritization, the incident is prioritized for better utilization of resources and staff time. Diagnosis, reveal the full symptoms of the incident. Escalation, should staff need support from other organizational or external units. Investigation and diagnosis, if no existing solution from the past can be found, the incident is investigated and root cause found. Resolution and recovery. Once the solution is found, the incident is resolved. And finally, incident closure. The registry entry of the incident in the system is closed by providing the end status of the incident. Now, how about some questions to give you an idea where you are? Do you have separate and disconnected incident management systems? Typically, this will be lots of spreadsheets with lots of macros, some the size of a small town. Fairly obviously, the ideal solution would be a single integrated system solution configured to your needs that meets all safety incident management needs and across differing risk areas. Can you instantly report consistent and comparable safety incidents information? Information for a site, business unit, or your entire business should be easily compared with real-time or near real-time visibility of all incidents, injuries, and investigations. Can your directors actively monitor safety risk and liability incidents? By giving you a real-time view of all safety incidents across your business, the technology platform will improve corrective and preventative action, and thus help reduce the likelihood of reoccurrence. The most senior executives want to know they have a real handle on risk, and they worry about potential damage to brand and reputation. Are you able to monitor and prevent incident and injury reoccurrence? Everybody really needs some help in reducing and eliminating recurring incidents and injuries. The solution should be designed to identify and share best practice, whilst improving training, operational control, and corrective and preventative actions across safety risk areas. Do you have difficulty tracking and managing corrective and preventative actions raised from incident investigations or safety audits? With automatic email notifications for undue and overdue actions and tasks, as well as reporting and investigation reminders, technology should provide your management team with a full suite of features for tracking, managing, and closing investigations, reporting requirements, and of course, CAPA, corrective and preventive actions. Do you struggle to measure, track, and report safety incident management performance? You really need a powerful Key Performance Indicator, KPI, reporting engine for tracking and reporting safety incident management performance. Are the associated costs of lost time, fines and penalties adversely affecting your business? A technology solution will help reduce costs and penalties through improved safety incident management, operational control, root cause analysis, and preventative and corrective action. I want to end my section by just making a few points about spreadsheets. Of course, spreadsheets do have their place. And of course, spreadsheets are ubiquitous throughout businesses and organizations worldwide, but organizations really should consider some common spreadsheet risk issues. This may be a bit of a drastic statement here, but hopefully it will grab your attention. Due to the fundamental structure of spreadsheets, just a very small change in the formula or value in any of their inhabited cells may drastically affect the overall output. Spreadsheets really are susceptible to trivial manual errors such as accidental copy or paste, omission of a negative sign, erroneous range collection, incorrect data input, or unintentional deletion of a character, cell, range, column or row. These are just a few of the simple errors spreadsheet users frequently encounter. Rarely are there any counter-checking controls in place in a spreadsheet-based activity, and manual errors can therefore easily go undetected. But what about this one? Possibility of the user working on the wrong version. Just how do you store spreadsheet files, and how do you ensure people are working on the correct latest version? Since the most common reports are usually generated on a monthly basis, users tend to store them using variations of configurations which can very easily be confused, leading the user to accidentally work on the wrong version. Prone to inconsistent company-wide reporting. This happens when a summary or final spreadsheet is fed information by different departments coming from their own spreadsheets. Even if most of the data in their spreadsheets come from one source, erroneous copy and pasting and linking, or even different interpretations of the same data can result in contradicting information in the end. Often defenseless against unauthorized access. Some spreadsheets contain information needed by various individuals or departmental units in an organization. Hence, they are often shared via email or through shared folders in a network. Now, because spreadsheets don't normally use any access control, any user can easily open a spreadsheet file and view or modify the contents as he or she wishes. Now, that is terrifying. Highly vulnerable to fraud. A complex spreadsheet system with zero or very minimal controls provides the perfect setting for would-be fraudsters. Hidden cells with malicious formulas and links to bogus information can go unnoticed for a long time, especially if the final figures don't deviate much from expected values. Usual spreadsheet risk mitigation solutions may just not suffice. Inherent complexity makes testing and logic inspection very time-consuming. Deep testing can uncover possible errors hidden in spreadsheet cells and consequently mitigate risks. But spreadsheets used to support enterprise reporting are often large, complex, highly personalized, and, without ample supporting documentation, understandably hard to follow. And finally here, no clear ownership of risk management responsibilities. There's always a dilemma when an organization starts assigning risk management responsibilities for spreadsheets. IT personnel believe users on the business side of the organization should be responsible since they are the ones who create, edit, store, duplicate and share the spreadsheet files. On the other hand, users believe IT should be responsible, since they always have been in charge of managing IT infrastructure, applications and files. One remedy is to have a risk management activity that involves both IT personnel and spreadsheet users. But wouldn't you want to get rid of the complexity of having to distribute the responsibilities between the two parties instead of just one? Fact is, spreadsheets in safety incident management and other business areas carry substantial risk, should be considered in terms of Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. have control limitations, are open to spreadsheet fraud, and really are just not built for an agile business in the 21st century. Now, I'm going to hand over this session to Olaf Larsetter, and he will go through his presentation objectives. I'll come back after Olaf for the Q&A session and then to conclude the webinar. So,
well, Paul, thanks a lot for that introduction. And once again, a warm welcome to all of you. I'll try to spend the next 25-30 minutes to bring some of my key lessons learned and good practices from deploying incident management systems. First, I like to point at some of the objectives and needs where the company were when we started. Some of the focus on the evaluation, mapping and design for implementing the systems, and then some of the implementation and deployment challenges that we have faced. And at the end, documented results, case studies, the gains, and even looking a little ahead on some of the future trends that we see. My experiences are based on deployment projects across all regions, across different verticals, and I've been lucky to be given the opportunity to work with some of the most ambitious and forward-leading companies, mainly within oil and gas during the 90s, and then after that in different verticals, land-based industry, chemicals, metal and mining, transportation, pharmaceuticals, but again, very frequent within the oil and gas industry. Given that we have worked with a lot of different clients in different verticals, of course, they were not at the same stage when the project started, but we have tried to find some of the common denominators. What was driving the project? Why did they launch the projects in the first place? I think all of them had the key that to reduce their overall risk, incident-related risks and related costs. As a matter of fact, several of them said that they were not able to quantify the cost of incidents or the cost of corrective actions. They would very much like to know that. To reduce the bureaucracy, the paper flow, duplicate reporting related to incident management. To establish common tools, rules and practices across their operations around the globe. Several of them said that they like to move away from the kind of reactive event-based incident management where you jump if the incident will lead to dramatic consequences, but where a near miss, even though a high-risk one, will lead to practically no intensive investigations. So they like to move from the event-based to the risk-based incident management systems approach. Like to improve their ability to share lessons learned across the divisions, across the operations, to improve the corrective action management. That has a lot of angles to it, but some of them said that they are not sure about the real effect of their corrective action. So to be able to manage it and to measure the effect was a vital one. For the management teams, updated real-time KPIs available at all levels, around the clock, around the globe, at their fingertips. And there was one specific story where the managing director said that he would like one version and one version only of the truth. Based on previous experiences, several standalone systems, spreadsheets around different regions, different sites, they tended to find several versions of the truth, and he would like that to stop. Before we launched the deployment projects, they invited, of course, people from the sharp front end, from the unions, across different disciplines, to try to find, okay, what's the key criteria for our success here? And regardless of the vertical, if it's oil and gas or if it's land-based industry or transportation, I think keep it simple, because you can build a technology system today as complex as you like, and it will just frustrate and scare most of the users away. Succeed at the site level, because we all know that if they succeed at the site level, data will aggregate and arrive at the management's desktops. So they will have whatever KPI they need. But if we fail at the sharp front end and at the site level, no data will ever aggregate correctly to the top. And number 3 here, focus on the learnings, continuous improvements, and on the early gains, as they said. So not focus on the shames and the blames and the missings and what we didn't achieve immediately, but focus on what we can learn and improve from day one. When we started working with our clients in the beginning, we tried to, of course, mirror and understand the process that they have today. And we have been able more or less to split the incident management process in 4 basic steps, regardless of which client it's been. How do they collect the data? Via paper forms, via electronic templates, via smartphones and tablets and so on. How do they process the data, the procedures, the workflow, validation, approvals, and so on? How do they analyze their data today, and how do they communicate and present the KPIs and the performance? Even though this presentation now is focusing mainly the incident management and software systems and technologies for that, several of our clients, they had a wider scope when they initiated, tried to combine incident management with quality management, audit management, inspection management, and even a full risk management umbrella across all the activities. Try to combine both the compliance-driven reactive needs and the more ambitious proactive needs as well. When we have tried to design and set up the systems in the first place, we have very much turned the process around a little. Instead of looking at the input forms, the reporting forms, we have tried to start with the output. What are the needs and the expectations from the top management? What kind of KPIs, warehouses, corporate portals, dashboards would they like to see populated from the incident and risk management systems? What kind of periodic reports do they need? What kind of reports do they need corporate and then regionally in different languages to meet statutory reporting and requirements around? And then to bring also facilities for ad hoc queries and to build and modify reports as they grow with the system. So I think if you're able to design a system that will deliver this, the input side and the processing and workflow will be more or less given. After 20 years deploying systems within this domain, I think today we are able to design them specifically and accurately according to all different needs at the various management levels. The full risk matrices, the KPIs according to performance versus targets, the rolling averages to find the trends, the modified reports, and the PowerPoints and the Word documents and the listings and what have you. So I think key number 1, design and set up the specification for the output of the system. But obviously, in order to get anything out from the system, we need someone to add data into the system. Simplified interfaces. We looked at all the paper-based forms or the templates they had already, and we tried to find, okay, how can we simplify these templates, reporting via email, via smartphones, via tablets. make it available in native languages so they can operate 10, 20, 30 languages in the same systems. If you don't offer native languages, but just decide for a company language, I believe that you effectively exclude the major part of the organization from participating in this incident management system. Avoid focus on individuals or blame, not to shame and blame. That can be handled in the systems by access rights and how we control the access, read, write, and so on to the system. And also to ensure feedback to the sharp front end. If they report, let the system generate a message back that thank you for reporting, we will classify and look into your information, and allow them even to follow the further process of the case. Because a lot of the companies, when we arrived, they said that, oh yeah, we have been reporting for many years, but it seems like it's ending up in some black holes around. We are not sure what happens with our incident reports, what comes out of it. So ensure that you have a good feedback loop to the sharp front end. And as I said, simplified templates should not be necessary to have a front end attending classroom training to use a software incident management system today. It should be as intuitive. It should guide them and stop them and correct them. Again, native languages, reporting via tablets, thin clients, PCs, but even then via smartphones. And I think some of the most simplified interfaces you can find today, you take a picture of the incident scenery or what's the problem or what's the opportunity, then you have a voice recording to it. And push the send button, and it will create a new case in the database, and back office can classify and progress the report. As soon as back office has received the report, as I said, they can do a further classification to details about consequences, the loss potential, the causes, the action plans, attached documents, and so on. But even here, I think simplicity and the graphical user interface is extremely important when you design the system to prevent too much scrolling, clicking, and fumbling around in the system. Extract highlights, as we see it here up in the right corner. So immediately I can see here what the consequences were, how they evaluate the risk, the root causes found, the actions proposed, the attached documents, and so on. So to make it as effective and fast for processing as possible. Then again, we talk about transparency, governance. Of course, in a modern system today, everything has to be tracked, monitored. Who did what, where did they send it, who has been alerted, notified, emailed, who have approved, and so on. So the full processing logs has to be available at all times. As I mentioned previously, several of our clients said that they like to move away from the event-based incident management approach to the risk-based. Most modern incident management software systems today will offer that opportunity, so you can build the workflow, the escalation paths, and all kind of routines based on your risk matrices. So if this is a high risk, a red one, the systems will help you to alert and notify, require full investigations, and so on. Whereas if it's a low risk, then they can handle it more locally and stop and close the investigation at that level. Similarly, looking at the root causes, the full investigations, of course, coming from DNVGL, we have worked since day one, from day one, with the systematic cause analysis techniques, the BSCAT models today, where you look at any loss or impact, consequences. You classify the top events, the main incidents, you find the underlying causes, unsafe acts, conditions, you go back to look at underlying root causes connected to the staff, to personnel, to contractors, or to the job arrangements, and even then all the way back to the root causes, the management systems, the procedures, the manuals, and try then to come up with actions wherever we see that barriers have not been able to function as it should. During the years, I think we have, regardless of which incident management software system, we have supported a variety of different root cause models. You have the tripods, you have the Swiss cheese models, you have the full trees, we have the tap roots, we have a wide portfolio. And again, modern technologies and software systems will be able to support different loss causation models, even inside the same organization. Okay, so then obviously they have looked at the causes, maybe identified the root causes, and even proposed some actions. But what we have found too frequent, I would say, is that there's a lack of link, or at least a proper link, between the identified causes and the proposed actions. So it seems like they are not able to tie the actions properly enough to the identified cause. And I think we should be very cautious to reach that when we design and implement systems today, because otherwise it will just be pointing at the problems without solving them. Most companies will also have different procedures and business rules for, depending on the nature of the accident or incident, what kind of action plans are required, immediate, long-term actions based on the risk. I think we have a lot of experience when it comes to due dates. Some companies may be a little too eager, which means that every action item will be overdue and people will lose their motivation. So make sure that you have realistic approaches to due dates, and also to find the proper responsibilities, not just delegating and assigning to someone without really ensuring that it is the right person or the right resource for this corrective action. A lot of our clients today have really, I would say, made significant improvements when it comes to the way they prioritize their actions, look at the cost of actions, and even go back maybe 1 year after the action was implemented and try to validate what kind of effect did we get out of this action. Because it's not enough just to close the action upon due date. We have to go back and try to validate later on if it fixed the problem or not. Most software systems today will offer you email processing of action items and action plans, and even then email reminders where you have overdue actions. I think one lesson learned here was that the system would start reminding the organization too often, I would say, and too negative, that it was more like almost like a big brother watching, arresting them that you have 3 actions overdue, you have 5 actions. So instead, it's possible to set up the system to help them. So let's say I will receive an email telling me that I have 2 action items due next week or next month. So the system can help me and guide me instead of just telling me when I failed. So I think it's important for the motivational side of it. And then finally, when it comes to corrective actions, we have a quantity versus quality challenge. Some companies are so good at reporting today. It means that the number of incidents, near misses, observations is so high, so to set really quality actions at all of them really seems to be more than they can handle. So I'll come back and discuss this a little more at the end of my presentation. Several of our clients said that they like to improve their ability and capability to share lessons learned across the company to prevent that the same incident would happen again and again and again. Technologies and software system today is designed so you can easily set up and build email target groups, and regardless of the user remembering to send, to alert and share, the system can be set up to handle it, to send automatic summaries from high learning value incidents, from recommendations that's relevant to all of them, specific lessons learned. So use the systems and the technologies really to share vital lessons learned across all divisions and sites and so on. Not depend on each individual to remember or to send and file it. Okay, so then we have done all these projects, and again we have found some similar challenges across several of the projects. And obviously, looking at our own companies and our own organizations, you will always find kind of a general resistance to change. They are a little afraid that this will change their everyday work too much. Some of them have over the last years seen maybe too many deployment of software systems within financials, within HR, ERP, assets, HSEQ, and so on. So it will be a little, oh no, here we go again. Then in some of the companies, again, they had all these in-house systems, spreadsheets and practices in the different sites, different regions. And of course, they worked well for them locally. And that will also generate this not invented here syndrome if they then select a new commercial software or technology delivered by someone else. So that's also a very strong, obstacle to overcome very often. Then obviously in some of these big companies you have the cultural obstacles, the languages, the different regulations, the different focus areas. Of course that will also be reflected when trying to implement and deliver the training and get everyone on board. Some projects maybe we have been aiming too high from day one, so then we just ended up with a little, disappointment and a little drop in the motivation instead of looking at the early gains, the low-hanging fruits, and try to embrace and really celebrate the improvements from day one. Lack of management involvement, not that often, but we still find it around that they are involved until they have decided to go for a system, and maybe which system, but then they kind of leave it to the organization to do it, which of course they have to delegate most of it, but I think that they will show up during the project at specific milestones is really keeping the motivation and the focus alive from the top down to the bottom. And then we have seen that even if they have selected one common technology and tool, still they have not given enough focus to see how that will adapt and support local rules around. So maybe they have, it's a little, again, as I said earlier, that we decide for a language to be the company language, regardless of what they can understand in the different countries and the regions. So it's about adoption and trying to get everyone on board. we have tried different approaches then to avoid or to go around or to meet these obstacles, overcome them. Very often when a company is looking for a new tool or a software or a technology for incident management, they will at the same time be ready for, or they have already started to upgrade their manuals, their policy, their procedures. And then I think it's a very good opportunity to deploy this in parallel. So you can say that, okay, here's the new rules, and we even bring you a new tool to support and to make it easier to comply with the new rules. In some places, we have seen that they just decided overnight that all running systems would be shut down, of course, to get the synergy effects out as quick as possible. But that has created so much noise and this, what should I say, lack of motivation. So today, most systems will handle that you can migrate, you can integrate, you can import data, let's say for the first year or two, just to get everyone on board in a controlled manner without losing everything. So it's possible to do that today. I think sorry for that, software updates, if we look at the training side, I think we have learned one key lesson. We tried to align and offer this as a software training course during the 90s. But what we see today is that the users, they have a very good ability to learn very fast which button to push, where to click, how to scroll, how to operate the system. But the questions during training will very much focus the procedures, the policies, why should they report, where should they report, and so on. So I think in order to succeed, combine a small part of software training with the full incident management, the HSEQ training courses. We are very much used to train the trainers, to give them the ability to keep the courses and develop them and progress further inside the organization. And we have supported them with manuals, tutorials, and so on for the different disciplines and at the different levels. Again, as I said, implementation challenges, they are a little afraid of change, and here we go again. Keep it simple. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. For the templates, automated workflow guidance during in the interfaces, mandatory fields, default values, native languages, help functions, everything we can do to reduce the complexity, to make it more intuitive and more inviting to operate the system. Keep it simple. It's very easy to build a complex monster with all the technology we have available today. And not at least, as I said, to prevent this disappointment after deployment that it doesn't work, it takes time, document the early gains, the low-hanging fruits, show that reporting is increasing, show that the effect of actions is improving. So all the early gains, bring feedback up, down, across, so they really can see that the system is supporting the business. I mentioned that I would get back to this quality versus quantity. And just to summarize it, when people worked out from the event-based incident management approach, everything escalated based on the consequences. Fatalities, serious injuries, that would escalate and call for everyone's attention, and we would have full investigations, extensive action plans, and so on. But the near misses, even though if some of them were high risk, were very often just treated locally and closed. With the risk-based, even a near miss could be up in the top level as a very high risk, even though no consequence, it's still a high risk. So that will make sure that out from the total quantity, we are still able to select everyone with a high risk, which we would maybe miss out if we follow the event-based approach. The other thing here is that some of our clients today, they report several 100,000 incidents and occurrences per year. It's almost no possibility that the organization can handle all of that with a similar quality, full investigation, proper action plans. So some of them have said, okay, let's ensure escalation, full investigation, and focus on the high risk and medium risks. But for the low risks, we handle it locally, we close them, and we don't even require action items on all of them. But periodically, 3-4 times a year, we will gather a group who will look at the trends going across all these 10,000s of low risks. And then we will add action plans against the trend, not against each occurrence. Because doing it that way, they are able to handle the big quantity and still keep up to their quality expectations. The final question, obviously maybe the most interesting one, does it work? Will it help you to implement software, technology platforms for your incident management? My experience is obviously yes. One example here in front of us, a company working in the pulp and paper business, a global company started off from Norway, distributed across all regions, deployed the system early 2000, and we see a dramatic decrease in the lost time injury frequency. If we look to the left here, we see that their reporting of near misses, unsafe job, use of safe job analysis, the proactives and even the reactives have increased dramatically. But by learning from all of this, they are able to identify root causes, corrective actions and improvement plans, which trigger this dramatic improvement. So this really summarizes it. When I use this company, I have a point to the fact that oil and gas, which is the line we see in blue down here, they have traditionally been way ahead of land-based and traditional industry, not only in Norway, but across the regions. So we've seen this company from pulp and paper, they have now moved the performance down here. So they are even better and equal to the best oil and gas companies we can find out there. So they have done a remarkable improvement. What they have highlighted to us that meant most to them, of course, they have increased the reporting. They were struggling with the reporting culture. It's easier, it's more available, more accessible, so they report much more than before. Obviously, when you see the improvements, the effect of their corrective action has improved a lot. You saw the KPIs that the lost time injuries and the total recordables has dropped by 85 and 55% over the 5 years. I think monetary-wise, that they have reduced their corporate insurance premiums by 40% because they can document a totally different risk picture compared to previous years. They have gotten rid of all the standalone systems, the bureaucracy, the paper flow, the duplicate data entry, and they report a tremendous annual saving related to that as well. So overall, today they can step forward and say that the governance, the transparency and compliance, it's here, it's available, and they can document it from day to day. So we have a lot of similar case studies from other clients who can document similar results, other results, but very much in the same direction. And of course, our main hope is that we can support them further to share and learn between them to make even further improvements. And as I mentioned, it's not only the increased reporting, the improved reporting, and the reduction in incidents, but I think the monetary side. We even see here another client who reports 7 million euros per year in reduced insurance costs. That then you really can justify to launch a project like this. Looking a little ahead, I think we see some obvious trends for incident management systems and software systems as such. It's about cloud computing, where again, global operations, regional, across regions, to get this much more effectively and even a much more cost-effective way. So already today we see a lot of solutions and opportunities where they will offer cloud computing. Mobile computing, as we have already addressed and talked about, to report everything from stationary PCs, laptops and so on, but mobile computing from the sites. They use smartphones and tablets and what have you out there. We see a lot of requirements from our clients to develop our systems in those directions. Seamless integrations between the incident management systems, the HSEQ, the full risk management solutions, and the rest of the systems for financials, for HR, ERP. So in order to allow them all to share, to prevent duplicate population and maintenance of systems. And then I think at the last part here, as we have also pointed out, that management, they will expect not only to have online, around the clock, around the globe, KPIs at their fingertips, telling them what has happened, but the same systems have to be able to use that information to tell the managers what to expect over the year to come. So how to make the systems even stronger to predict not only the real time, but even the forecasts for it. So again, I think in all these, the four main areas, we will see a lot of development in the years to come. And with that, I think I will thank you for your time this far and conclude my session. I will now hand it all back to Paul, who will guide our questions and answer sessions. And of course, I'll be more than happy to respond to questions, to comments, both at the end of the session, but even later on, if you like. So thank you all for.
Thank you very much, Olaf. We have some time for a Q&A session. We have had a number of interesting questions coming through, so I'm going to start by asking Olaf, can software for safety incident management be configured to automatically populate mandatory forms for submission of information to government departments and so on?
Thanks, Paul. I think the answer to this is straightforward, yes. For instance, we see here an incident record where you have some personal injuries. A typical requirement, and again, across the regions, it's the same in the States as in Europe, is that to send all information about this one injured person to the statutory bodies, to the inspectorates, will require an additional form. So in this system, if I check off this field, it will generate that form electronically to send off to the so you don't have to do duplicate reporting. And it can be other forms, of course, to meet the RIDDERs, the OSHAs, and the same in Norway, in the Middle East, and so on. So yes, the systems can populate statutory forms.
Thanks, Olaf. And another one. What about the past 7 years of historic data that I've got saved on several spreadsheets and access databases? Can they be imported?
Yes, Migration of historical data is almost always a part of the project. Most systems today, again, I believe, will have tools for export and import of data between databases, from historical databases. And of course, it's a mapping job to do, because we have to make sure that whatever historical data we like to transfer across, we have to find a match then between the causes, the root causes, the classification parts of the new system versus the old system. But that always a mapping job we do, and then it's automatically transferred. Of course, I always like to emphasize that don't spend too much time and money on the snow that fell previous years. Of course, we should bring along vital data, data relevant for trending, and high quality data. But again, if it's been a jungle of in-house spreadsheet standalone systems, the quality might have suffered. So just make sure we have this cost balance approach to.
Terrific answer, Olaf. And now I think this may have to be the last question. What about data protection? If there's an incident, what happens to personal data?
Yes, Paul. Again, as I've said numerous times during the presentation, I think output is the most essential part, that they can extract data and present it in whatever format and way they like. And I think, again, most modern technology systems today will give you the opportunity to build and save your searches and favorite reports. Just like there's a lot of predefined reports, of course, in all systems, a lot of predefined listings and viewings and filters and so on. But then again, the ability just to build up and modify your own reports. And for example, it should be straightforward just to combine the different criteria in your system, send it off to Excel to build the bars and diagrams, or to HTML. When you have found or modified the reports you need, you will just save them. This will now become a URL, so you will call it your monthly action status. Execute automatic. Now I can share this with the different user groups across our divisions and sites for individual users, managers. So again, build, modify, save, and distribute the reports as you need it.
Thank you very much, Olaf. Now then, that concludes this webinar presentation. I hope you found it relevant and useful,